Good afternoon. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Jes Delos Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Tuesday. All right, no reprieve yet for the local index. Retreat persisting here for the PSEi. 3 straight days of declines now after the index slid today by 0.9%, sending the benchmark below the 6,500 level yet again, now at 6,457.79. It's been a 2.92% slump here for the index the past 3 trading days, as you can see right here. This despite, of course, the easing of some restrictions in the NCR Plus bubble to MECQ until the end of the month. But with mobility curves still in place, investors remaining cautious here. You have Rachel Cruz of AP Securities saying there is still no catalyst to go higher. She adds earning confidence will remain weak and the market will still have a downward bias. True enough, foreign investors dumping local stocks once again. Net foreign selling persisting for the 8th straight day at sales of 1.4 billion pesos. Now looking at our players here, only 9 of the 30-member index ended the day in the positive territory. You have the likes of LT Group leading the pack here, up 2.6%. The Lusitan Group now at valued at 13 pesos and 58 centavos a piece. Also, you have here RRHI ending the day higher by over 2.5% after announcing, or at least approving, a 2 billion peso share buyback transaction. At the same time, likewise, you also have another stock here, greenlighting another buyback program, Emperador. The stock is up, excuse me, the stock is up close to 1%, again, after that buyback program of 1 billion pesos to boost shareholder value. Now, looking at our laggards, both Alliance Global and URC declining by over 4% here. URC now valued at around, all right, the second amount here, but you have, again, Alliance Global and URC down by over 4%. Both stocks, of course, leading our worst performers here. URC now at 131 apiece. Alliance Global, likewise, here also in the red, down as much as 4.1%. But let's have a quick check here of one specific stock, restaurant operator Jollibee. That's after reporting that their consolidated net loss attributable to equity holders is slightly higher than previously reported at 11.51 billion pesos. That again is higher than the untallied report of 11.49 billion pesos previously. That's due mainly to adjustments during the audit period. Again, this is also 257% lower than their 7.3 billion peso profit back in 2019. The net loss factors in transformation costs of as much as 6.7 billion pesos as the pandemic forced the business to make adjustments and transitions. Add to that, of course, weaker revenue due to store closures and lower shares. Looking at Jollibee at the moment here, the stock is joining the sell-off in the index. It's down close to 0.2% to 179.40 a share. Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. Foreign loans availed by the government rose to almost $15.5 billion or 752 billion pesos as of April from the $14.2 billion or nearly 690 billion pesos recorded in March. New loans amounting to $1.2 billion or 52 billion pesos consist of external debt taken on for the vaccination program. The 3 new loans are from the World Bank, from the Asian Development Bank, and from the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Under the agreements, the banks will directly pay vaccine manufacturers and assist in vaccine delivery. On the other hand, the government will have to shoulder transportation and other administrative costs in distributing vaccines and inoculation. The government tapped multilateral banks to plug the funding gap for its mass vaccination program worth 72.5 billion pesos. 70 million pesos are targeted to be vaccinated by year end. Almost 400,000 workers from the tourism sector are receiving a one-time 500,000 peso aid from the government. Some 1.9 billion pesos have been allocated for the program. The Labor Department said beneficiaries include 370,000 workers from tourism establishments and organizations across the country. as well as over 13,000 tourism workers who applied individually. About 8,000 workers have so far benefited from the program. To apply for assistance, tourism establishments, associations, or individuals must submit documentary requirements to regional offices of the tourism department for evaluation. Upon verification, the applicant will be asked to submit their application form and complete requirements online through the DOLE's website. Now, a bit of a correction here. Again, that's almost 400,000 workers from the sector receiving a one-time 5,000 peso aid from the government. Not 500,000, but 5,000 pesos. With clearer guidelines now as to how the NCR Plus bubble will navigate MECQ until the end of the month, should we expect then the economy to get a bit of a breather for the period? Now, to get his insights, we have Union Bank Chief Economist Carlo Asuncion. Good afternoon, Sir Carlo.
Good afternoon, Jess. Thank you for
Okay,
having
so
me.
MECQ for the next 2 weeks, is this going to offer any reprieve for the ailing economy?
Yeah, well, for the initial salvo this week, at least for the markets, we've seen that the players are still very cautious at this point, just watching where the infections are. No, and we know that the infections have not been below 10,000 as of late. So, about the average. So, we're thinking that it might take time. Firms will have to adjust, restaurants have to adjust, and all those adjustments again. Just looking at these changes in the restrictions.
Does this mean, Carlo, that recovery is back to zero?
Well, not really. I think that the first 2 months of the year, we did have some significant upticks. I've seen by some of the data that have been released lately, like FDI and infrastructure spending and even exports. So I think that this may be hopefully this may be a blip, moving forward, and that's the hope. No, that this may be just a small impact to what we initially expected. So yeah, we're looking at again revising our, our forecasts for this year because of this 2 weeks full lockdown.
Right, good thing that you mentioned about forecast. I mean, this will pretty much factor in at least during the second quarter. But for the first quarter, at least, how do you think things are shaping up, or at least already shaped up?
Yeah, well, we're looking at between -2 to -4%, about that area. We're still trying to finalize that, and still looking at different numbers, and but that's where things are at. Initially, it was hopefully we were out of the negative territory supposedly, but things have gotten this way. But we're still pretty much, hopefully by the second half we will see much better numbers.
So, still a contraction in the first quarter. What brought about that change?
Yeah, well, again, it's basically just the what you call the expectations of people, no, of investors. Of course, a lot of them are in wait and see mode again. People who were like or firms who were actually starting to gear up are were again sidelined, or we're just waiting again, and just waiting for further developments about this. No, so there are a lot of plans that were actually sidelined, and again just wait and see.
Mm-hmm. So, but would you say that there might be the possibility of a surprise growth in the first quarter? Because you have think tank Pantheon Macroeconomics saying that there might actually be a 2.2% growth in the first quarter. What's the likelihood of that happening?
Yeah, well, it is. It's always a possibility, but again, as I mentioned, we were already like factoring in about a 0.5% growth for first quarter initially before this lockdown. So yes, it might be possible, but again, with the way things are, that's we're looking at as I mentioned about between two to a decline of 2 to 4% still by this first quarter.
Now, is recovery, given that as well, what's interesting is you have macroeconomics also alluding to a double dip recession coming from a growth and then eventually you go on a contraction once again. Is this a likely scenario as well?
Yeah, well, anything is possible now
Mhm.
because the way the virus has been again behaving and the way that we have somehow dealt with it. And I think that it is not impossible that a double dip can happen at any point in time, especially with the way, for example, at least that the vaccinations are being perceived. I mean, at least the way it was being rolled out, and how much are we actually going to be able to inoculate by the end of this year, because we
Mhm.
do have targets by government of about 70 million. So, but we're also looking at we have our own expectations or forecast about it. So just looking at the numbers of I mean the dedicated number of vaccines that we have gotten so far, and I mean, to in fairness to the government, it seems like we've been talking to some people, private sector that actually is involved in the vaccine rollout and procurement. That it's very positive moving forward. No, it's very
Mhm.
positive at this point that we will be able to reach at least 70 million inoculations this year.
This year. Okay. Now, that mean as well you subscribe to this notion by at least the BSP governor himself saying that, recovery might happen in 2022, depending on vaccine deployment.
Yes, yes. We did initially expect the second half, sorry, the first half, towards the
Mhm.
half of 2022, us coming back to pre-pandemic GDP growth levels, no, or at least the what you call the real value of GDP, no. But since this second this 2 week lockdown, and again the uncertainties of whether we're going to move from MECQ or to a GCQ eventually. Again, that puts our expectation on the downside, and we might actually be expecting, a full pre-pandemic return to about probably the fourth quarter now. So
Fourth quarter 2022.
instead of second half or middle 2022.
Okay, now you have Congress saying that economic managers are scouring for funding for Biennium 3. Is this a little too late? And by how much do you think it might actually buoy the economy?
Well, as they say, better late than never. So we've been talking about this when I
Mm.
think towards the third quarter. I think
November.
there was already a proposal by Anihan 3 when Bayanihan 2 came out and was signed. And I think there was already much talk about. I understand that even the speaker back then was pushing for it. No?
Mhm.
So definitely, any fiscal stimulus would be welcome to the market, would be welcome to perception, and would be welcome to very positive to bode well for GDP recovery.
But at 420, very quickly, at 420 billion, if I'm not mistaken, 420 billion, is that enough?
Well, we well if we hope that it could be enough. No, we do know that even our neighbors, have really come out with all guns blazing with all of their fiscal stimulus programs, no, not to mention recently the US. Now, of course, that's the US, but any amount that could be put out there, that's I'd say significant enough. No,
Mhm.
I think they were talking about 163, not even 400 billion,
Right. Right.
163. So anything 163 or even more than that will be most welcome, I think.
Anything that we can make use of, at least for now. Thank you
Yep.
very much for your time this afternoon, Union Bank Chief Economist Carlo Asuncion.
Thank you.
And those are the biggest news this trading day, April 13, 2021. Catch Business World Live again tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jes Delos Santos. We are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.